evil is real. If we look at these past few years, we've had catastrophic failure for the people who are supposed to be the protectors and the guardians of health to do their job, and even yet still today they're not standing up for what is right.
Dr. Peter Osborne is a board-certified clinical nutritionist and medical doctor practicing in Sugar Land, Texas. He's never been afraid to go against the grain and speak out in defense of his patients.
What is right? What is right is the ability to make the decision. The person should be able to make the decision. We're not debating whether or not you think the vaccine is right or wrong, or I think it's right or wrong. We're debating the choice that you as an autonomous individual should be able to make with your God-given granted rights of body autonomy. The past couple of years have really taught the world a lot of different lessons. One really big lesson is that the road to hell is paved with good intention. If you look at all the wonderful intentions, it doesn't matter, I don't care how you're political, what side of the aisle you're on politically, or what side of the face mask argument you're on, or what side of the vaccine argument you're on, it doesn't matter. I'm not here to debate that. I'm just simply make the observation that lots of people had really good intentions going through the last 2 years, and the outcome of those intentions has been horrific on humankind for multiple reasons. We've got lockdowns that have financially ruined, decade-old family businesses. We've got lockdowns that have polarized people against each other and pitted neighbor against neighbor. We've got, plenty of familial arguments over masks and vaccines, and so we've got this dichotomy there, and all of this came out of, I think, good intention. The leaders were trying to lead, only I think we could probably all agree they did a horrendous job.
Peter's never been a fan of pill-popping pharmaceutical medicine, and it is his focus on nutrition, in fact, that has made his reputation, principally in the book No Pain, No Grain. But besides that, he's somebody who's always gone against the grain and been prepared to look with a focus on nutrition and not on what pills we pop.
People in charge don't know any better than you. They're not more qualified to make the decisions about you. They're not there to come and save you. They're not going to ever come and save you. And what they're trying to coerce you or have you do is not necessarily the best thing for you to do.
When he qualified as a doctor, Peter was sharp enough to realize that his head had been stuffed full of pharmaceutically biased medicine, and he was determined that in fact his lessons and his learning was only just beginning.
To me, what was more important was that the summation of all the classes and all the college that I had gone through, it didn't deter me from wanting to continue to learn. And I think this is a mistake a lot of doctors make, is they get their degree and their learning is done. Now they become a robot writing scripts, and that was not something that I certainly wanted to have.
You see, Peter's ex-Air Force, US Air Force, and as a young doctor, his first cutting his teeth in practice was to care for war veterans under the US VA Veterans Administration, where he first encountered the sheer scale of corruption of modern medicine. Each time I brought back a stack of research, I was told that we weren't going to implement any of these things. And what it really served to do is it taught me one thing. It taught me that you cannot change a system that is corrupt. And that was something that I did see there. I saw a lot of drug reps coming in, a lot of drug reps pawning their ware, and there was a lot of influence that these reps had. Pharmaceutical companies were making a lot of money. The surgeons, through surgeries, were making their fair share, but the patients were getting screwed, and that was not something that I could really stand by and be quiet about, which is why I kept doing research and kept asking questions. But I think the biggest lesson that I learned was in that environment was I learned that my learning wasn't over, and that just because I'd gone through the vast majority of schooling didn't mean I couldn't learn more, and that's what I committed myself to doing in the VA hospital. But one of the other things that I learned is that don't just accept things because that's the way that they are. And I think so many people do that. They come into an environment where
You know, the work is done this way because the work is done this way, and nobody ever questions the efficiency or the efficacy of why the work is done in such a way. And so it continues to be done ineffectively and inefficiently and poorly. And so don't ever be scared to ask questions about the status quo. And I learned that in the VA hospital, even though it was met with great resistance and really with scathing commentary. Nonetheless, I still met it, and I think that's where, you know, anyone in their life has to have the courage to stand up for what is right, regardless of the consequences.
Peter's skills were soon teaching people how to heal themselves with nutrition, and he realized as his online career developed that he could potentially save 100 million lives, and thus began that project.
The more I actually did help people, the greater the reward, and the reward came in multiple ways. So for me, it was the greatest reward were the letters that people would write me that would proclaim that the information that we were publishing was life-changing and life-saving. I mean, I've got thousands of letters and emails and commentary from people who I never met in my life that, you know, whose lives were completely turned around and changed simply as a result of some of the articles and videos that we were creating. So that really what that told me was that, you know, you don't cast your pearls before swine, but you do put information out there so that people can access it, because if it's available and somebody is searching for it, they can find it and it can change their life. And so that's actually where Save 100 Million Lives came from. It was the lives that we were saving and changing, my team and I, that we had never met these people. These were not people that came to see me in my clinic. These were people that were complete strangers. And so those people really fueled and drove forward my desire to get more and more information out to help people. And so that reward is nothing in my life that has been more rewarding professionally, not privately, but professionally, than being a part of this community and really just providing knowledge and information that people could take and use and really have their lives changed and affected in a positive way.
Peter made all these comments in recent days on his 50th birthday as he put out a video reflecting on his career as a doctor, what he's learned and the life lessons he's learned too. It hasn't been without tragedy for Peter. His son Conan, you see pictured here, just at the time of his wedding, ahead of his death from terminal cancer, was a great tragedy. That loss of young life affected Peter greatly, but as ever, his determination and his focus on helping others brought him through. He spoke also of love, of relationship, and of children in his comments on his 50th birthday.
I've also learned in relationships that it's better to give than receive, but sometimes you have to be open to receiving in order to grow. And I think, you know, one of the things a lot of people have a hard time doing is receiving, especially when it comes to receiving compliments. I know I'm somewhat guilty of that myself, and I've had to really work on it. But in order to grow in humility, it's good to learn how to receive, and in a relationship, it becomes very important. I've also learned that men and women complete each other. Men, in my experience, were chaotic, angry, strong, and motivated to go out into the world and make a presence and you know, make our place known and you know, climb our mountain and plant our flag. And those are great things. I'm not saying those are bad things. I'm not going to be one that preaches toxic masculinity. I think that's nonsense. I think men and women are just different. I think whereas men are that way, women are more heart-centered. They're more. We'll just say a lot of people accuse women of being very emotional in their way they have their thought process, but I would argue that most women think very deeply and very longly about many, many things. And so it's that skill set that, when connected with the right man, is like a perfect union or a perfect marriage of characteristics that can create a very, very powerful force in the world for good. And so when I say men and women complete each other, that's what I mean by that. And ultimately, I would say that in life, love really, in my experience, is the answer to a lot of grief and a lot of problems. And so having somebody that you can go through the world with that you love and care about deeply is very, very important to complete yourself.
And finally, Dr. Osborne reminds us that there is yet one more source of learning which we all have available to us and which is all around us.
I think that children have a lot to teach people. One is that life gets messy, so learn to embrace messiness, especially if you have children. I think children teach us humility. Children teach us curiosity again. As adults, I know especially this was true of me as I got older and serious. You lose sight of that child sometimes within you, that inner child, and I think having children really can help you tap back into that very important aspect of yourself and of your personality. I think that children, oftentimes, what they do, parents take either too much credit for, or parents too much blame on either side of the equation. I think ultimately, when they're kids, it's important that we mold them and teach them. It's important that we give them the freedom to also make decisions and make mistakes. Because if we rule over them, with an iron fist, they can't learn, and we can't learn, right? We can't learn and grow with them.
Maybe you'd like to join with Peter in his mission to save 100 million lives. He's already changed the lives of millions, but he still shows up every Thursday night to take questions from the public, and you can attend those sessions. I'll give you a link to the full video from which those comments came, to his website, to his YouTube channel. You'll also get a link in the description to Fintan Dunn Uncensored, because in the last few days I put out a video you mightn't have seen on YouTube because it's on Odysee and Rumble, as there are certain topics which anti-Google prefers I don't discuss right here. Link in the description, folks, if you'd like to check out a video from me that you may have missed. Okay, I'll be back with more soon, and I hope you'll join me for that. But in the meantime, for informedconsent.ie, this has been Fintan Dunn reporting. See you soon.